Hi, I'm Vanessa Conlin, Master of Wine.
Hi, I'm Chris Carpenter, and I make the wine at La Jota.
Chris, thank you so much for having me here today to taste the 2021s. I've had the wines before, not this vintage, and I've never been here to La Jota here on Howell Mountain. These are all from the 2021 vintage,
Yes.
which has a lot of excitement around it. Can you tell us more what it was like during the growing season?
It was a normal growing season to a degree, so we didn't have any spikes in heat that drove everything from a sugar standpoint or got you baked character. It was just a really nice finish to work with. So the first wine we're going to taste is the W.S. Keys Chardonnay. This wine is the only white wine I make in my portfolio. This is a Chardonnay from right down the road. It's 1 mile to the Keys Vineyard. It is probably one of the very last Chardonnay blocks on Howell Mountain. With Chardonnay, you can make Chardonnay 20 different ways, right? But a lot of it is winemaker based. I didn't want to make a wine that was winemaker based as much as it was about the fruit that we were getting in this really unique spot. How many people can brag that they have a Howell Mountain Chardonnay? Not a lot. So this is meant to be an expression of what we can do in Howell Mountain with that acid, with that energy, with that minerality, without getting overshadowed by the oak and the bacteria.
It really does have like a great electricity to it, to the acid.
Yeah.
Very, very vibrant, very fresh. So this is the Merlot.
Yeah.
I read that there's, I think 1.5 or 2% of Tannat in this, which is not a grape I normally associate with Napa Valley. Would think probably Uruguay.
Yeah, that's where I learned about it.
Okay, so how did it end up in this glass?
Yeah. So this Merlot is not only Merlot, it's got a little bit of Petit Verdot and a little bit of Tannat in it. The origin of the Tannat is framed by the blending of the Petit Verdot to a degree. So I started blending Petit Verdot into Merlot because they're great counterpoint grapes. Merlot tends to have a lot of flesh. It's got a lot of mid-palate, a lot of reddish fruit. You know, it can have dark fruit, but it tends to be more red driven. Whereas Petit Verdot tends to have a lot more savory characters, a lot more dark fruit, and a structural component that's very different. So I started blending those. They worked out really well. You know, I was blending the Merlot and I started thinking about how some of the aspects of the Merlot and some of the aspects of the Petit Verdot were contained in Tannat all by itself. And maybe that would work in the Howell Mountain Merlot, and it did.
Well, I think it's gorgeous. All right, I think we're tasting Cabernet Franc next.
This block still produces. It doesn't produce a lot. Probably produces about a ton, maybe a ton and a quarter an acre, but there's very little farming that has to happen because they're old boys. They kind of know how to balance themselves. Right. That was the basis for the Cab Franc for many years. We've since planted more Cab Franc because the wine has gained a certain popularity. And I'm a big fan of Cab Franc as well, because Cab Franc, again, is another one of these varieties that in a place like Napa Valley, given the right growing conditions, you should be able to plant it and grow it at the same level of expectation as a Cheval Blanc or one of the other great Cab Francs from Bordeaux. And that's what this is.
I think there's so much pleasure in this glass. For me, it's almost equally on the nose as on the palate. There's just so much going on when I put my nose in this. Just gorgeous perfume, you know, floral, this like sort of very...
got a lot of rose petal. Right
yes,
now.
Yeah, exactly. I think next is your Cabernet Sauvignon from 2021.
Howell Mountain, and with the La Jota Howell Mountain, there's a certain expectation of the effect of tannin and the expression of tannin defining Howell Mountain. But with this wine, because I am blending in Malbec, Merlot, Franc, I can kind of smooth out the rough edges. Petit Verdot is counter to that, but it's important to have Petit Verdot in there because of some of the black pepper and savory characters. So that's why there's very little Petit Verdot. So what I'm trying to do with La Jota Cab is give the drinker, the restaurateur, a wine that if they're deciding to open it young, they can open it young and know they're gonna taste Howell Mountain. They're not gonna be beat up by the tannins.
I think we're finishing the tasting with the 21 Keys Merlot.
Yes. So with this wine, I was asked by our departed owner. He passed away some years ago, but before he did, he asked if I could make a Merlot at the highest level that could stand with Petrus, with Massetto, with some of the great wines of Saint-Emilion, and really exemplify what Merlot can do here. And I set out to do that. And I wanted this to be a powerhouse too. So that combination, 78% Merlot, 22% Cabernet, is meant to give it a good kick in the butt and uplift it.
It is a powerful wine, but it has a lot of finesse too. It's very complete, I would say.
Yeah, thank you.
But this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much. I mean, across the board, these are gorgeous. I think the 21 vintage is exceptional, but also these glasses are each exceptional in their own right.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cheers.